So let's explore the impact of this decision. Dobek Pater specialises in telecoms at research firm Africa Analysis and is our guest on the channel. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I think the maths of it is fairly simple for people to understand. And it does seem that it will favour the smaller operators, doesn't it?
It does, because of the so-called asymmetry. So the large operators will end up paying more per minute to connect onto other networks than the small operators to the large operators. However, it doesn't automatically translate in lower costs. Yes, possibly and quite probably some of the operators will lower the costs. Telkom, I think, because there's also a fixed line element to this, not just mobile. Cell C probably may. It will allow them to be more competitive when making off the network calls to other competitors. However, they also have revenues to look after, and smaller operators may already be trading at revenues or tariffs that are quite low because of the price competition we've seen over the past 2 years or so.
So you're saying, the regulation is there as it stands, but its application is discretionary? Correct,
yeah. So the operators are not obliged to pass that discount onto, or the reduction in mobile and fixed line termination rates to consumers. They may choose to do so. Telkom fixed line operator indicated they will do so. Whether Cell C does it, whether Telkom Mobile does it, whether MTN or Vodacom for that matter do it, remains to be seen.
Well, I mean, Icasa, in making this announcement today, says what it wants to do is to make communications cheaper for South Africans. What you're suggesting is that it may not necessarily translate into that.
So what Icasa is doing is introducing competition enablers into the market. So it does enable potentially better competition, greater competition, maybe even healthier competition. We will see about that.
Yeah, because we have the giants, right? We've got your MTN, yes, and your Vodacom. They're the leaders in this arena. They're not happy about this.
Correct. Obviously not, because it will cost them money in a sense. They'll generate lower revenues. It will cost their customers probably more to call other networks than it will cost smaller networks to call the larger networks.
Well, maybe it's right.
If that's passed on. But there are other elements apart from just the price that customers look at. Price is one of the elements. Yes, if you are price sensitive, then you will go for the cheapest operator in the market. But there are other considerations to take into account. Coverage, where do I have coverage from my operator? Quality, is the quality good? Is it poor? Increasingly, if you look at contracts, not only prepaid subscribers, although prepaid tend to be more price sensitive, but if we look at contracts, they come in bundles of voice and data. Now, this only impacts the voice market. People are increasingly also looking at what sort of data offering do they get, how much is it going to cost them for data communications, not only voice communications.
Well, Mr. Pater, what this does then is force consumers to be a lot more, to apply a lot more thinking and research when they choose. It may not necessarily result in this large migration then from the larger operators to the smaller operators.
What we have also seen through research, for instance, globally in other markets around the world, is that the asymmetric mobile termination rates have an impact within the first 3 years of operations. That's where they have the greatest impact. Thereafter, regulators tend to dispose of that competitive enabler because they deem that operators should be competitive enough to do without that. What we have in the case of Cell C, for instance, operator that's been with us for about 12 years now, they're still counting on this as being able to save them or allow them to grow, to gain market share and be more competitive going forward into the future. It may not necessarily translate into that, even if they do lower their tariffs for off-net calls.
Well, that certainly changes the complexion of things. It does. It's not just
as obvious market. It's not as easy as that, I'm afraid.
It is, but we appreciate your pointers. Thank you so much.
Super.
Appreciate your time. Dobek Pater is from Africa Analysis.
Know more about your world.
enca.com